Grim Prairie Tales from 1990 is a horror western anthology film, also known as Hellbent here in Australia. So if you can't decide whether you're in the mood for a western, a horror movie, or a few old Twilight Zone episodes, look no further. Grim Prairie Tales ticks all of these boxes and more. So the premise of this horror western anthology is that mild-mannered Farley, played by Brad Dourif, shares a campfire on a desolate prairie in the Wild West with a grizzled bounty hunter called Morrison, played by James Earl Jones. So young Farley's on his way to meet his new bride, and Morrison has the corpse of his latest bounty slung over a horse bound for a big payday. So to pass the time, the two of them decide to swap stories, and this forms the wraparound for four very eclectic and eccentric western horror stories. I love me a good anthology movie. I even love me a bad anthology movie. And how does Grim Prairie Tales shake out, this interesting horror western anthology film? So I've had a bit of a soft spot for this movie since I first saw it on home video over 3 decades ago. But to be fair, the wraparound itself is probably the strongest part of the film. So the wraparound is a very strong story. It's very character-driven. Brad Dourif and James Earl Jones make the perfect sparring storytellers, the perfect sparring partners, trying to outdo each other with each and every story. And as for the stories themselves, like all the best anthology films, we have a bit of a mixed bag of stories here. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you'll pardon the pun. There's the story about an old man trespassing on an ancient Indian burial ground. There's a story about a pregnant woman, and there's a story about a lynch mob. And finally, we have a story about 2 gunslingers who are about to have it out. So these are all interesting and entertaining to varying degrees, but as I said, the real highlight of this film is the back and forth banter between James Earl Jones and Brad Dourif in the wraparound stories. So James Earl Jones really chews up the scenery as the tobacco-chewing, tobacco-spitting bounty hunter, and Brad Dourif, who played Chucky in Child's Play, of course, makes a great foil to James Earl Jones as the perpetually offended, mild-mannered clerk. So Grim Prairie Tales was better known as Hellbent here in Australia, as I said, but I do prefer the original title of Grim Prairie Tales. It rolls off the tongue. And this is one of those warm, fuzzy, relaxing movies. It isn't big on scares or big on gore, and it didn't really perform well in theatres because of that, but this one did gain a respectable cult following on home video. So this one would probably make a good double bill with Bone Tomahawk, starring Kurt Russell, on a rainy Sunday afternoon with a bit of beef jerky and some American whiskey. So that's Grim Prairie Tales, also known as Hellbent. So as I said, the anthology stories themselves are mixed results, but that's the way all the best anthology movies play out. And the highlight of this one really is the wraparound story with Brad Dourif and James Earl Jones. So they play great verbal storytelling sparring partners in this film. As I said, Brad Dourif was a great straight man foil to the larger-than-life, in more ways than one, James Earl Jones bounty hunter. And overall, it's a very cool movie because of that wraparound segment. And as I said, the stories themselves are patchy, but this one's still worth checking out nonetheless. So have you seen Grim Prairie Tales, aka Hellbent? If you have seen it and you're interested in giving any feedback, that'd be more than welcome in the comments below. As always, I'll try and find a trailer, and I'll try and find a link to watch the whole movie and pop those in the description below. I always try and put a few little Easter eggs down in there where possible. And no different this time, I'll pop those down in the description. Hope you're enjoying all of this content so far on Fulci Metal Jacket. This channel is still sort of finding its feet, finding its way, and starting to get into a little bit of a groove with it for all you fans of cult cinema, exploitation cinema, and horror cinema, and art house cinema. Any kind of cinema that's a little left or right of centre, left or right of the mainstream. So yeah, that was Grim Prairie Tales, aka Hellbent. So if you are enjoying this content, by all means, please like, share and subscribe and all of that jazz. And I hope to see you right here at Fulci Metal Jacket next time.